Hmm.
We need to get a fancy intro for Sunday Soul Food. I have asked for one. It'll take a little time to get it, I guess. It's kind of weird to just pop on and, hi, welcome to Sunday Soul Food. But here we are, nonetheless. And
Here
we
we
already have some viewers, so welcome, everyone. Welcome, Wendy and Carrie.
Hello.
So we're doing this series of all of our live videos right now. We're kind of just doing roundtable style. We might do it temporarily. We might do it forever. Who knows? We'll just see. How is everybody today?
Great. I'm good.
I hear Luna's doing well also.
It says hello.
I'm sure we'll hear from Rocco in a moment.
Oh.
He's very excited running around this morning. So I want to dive into our typical topic right off the bat. And in my meditation yesterday, I got more clarity on this whole evolution of belief systems and how what we're seeing is humanity is becoming more and more sophisticated, as we all know. And in that heightened sophistication or that evolution of sophistication, the religion is evolving as well. And there was a time that the vibration of religion was more universal law, was much more rooted in that. They may have referred to God, but God was the universe. And a lot of the rules and things that sprung forth through the teachings were just common sense things that served humanity at the time. And he's going to start barking now. So I just want a remote building somewhere where I can have my lives. So anyway, so the evolution of religions, but what has happened is that those religions, as we're seeing, have evolved into something that's more political, into something that has a lot more judgment even than the original version of the judgment of God or from God. Now it's the judgment of the members, the dogma of the religion that if you're not with us, you're against us. And we're seeing a lot of that. And so that's why it's really important in the Taya practice that we keep it pure, that we're not ever injecting rules or judgment or worship. That's something that I really, really have gotten from the stream always, is that there's nothing about that consciousness that is seeking worship. And if we're looking for something that's like a higher power, that really is the matrix. If you think about it, that's this human created notion that there is a higher power out there that you are accountable to, that's pulling the strings and controlling your life. But that's opposite of universal law, because universal law states we are attracting everything, creating everything with our consciousness. So there's no being out there. There are no guides out there guiding us. The guidance, I even use the term I'm guided, but that's my inner guidance. Our inner guidance is how am I going to react to vibrational flow next? So my vibrational flow is up. I am trusting, I'm believing, I'm planning, I'm enjoying, what all of those positive things are happening when my vibrational flow is high. Polarity takes vibrational flow down. And in that lower vibrational flow, I have a choice in how I react to what's happening in that lower vibrational flow. And sometimes I'm really good. And sometimes it is meeting my obstacles in joy. I'm just down. This is just a downflow. It's okay. I know what goes down is going to go back up. It's all cool. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes I react in a very 3D ego-driven way. And I'm completely at peace with that, because that's me working through my humanity, my belief system, that when I catch myself in fear or judgment, usually the root of it is that this should not be. That vibration of this should not be. I can always trace any time that I'm spun out and I'm reacting in a negative way, either inwardly or outwardly. There's always the root of that. This should not be. I shouldn't be experiencing this. This shouldn't be happening. but there's nothing that we're experiencing that we should not be experiencing, because all of it expands us, all of it. So I'm having this battle with an ice maker in the house. So when we remodeled the house, we put this fancy built-in under cabinet ice maker in a bar, and I love it. It makes clear ice. There's ice in there all the time. It's a lot more labor intensive as far as the machine goes than I ever thought it was going to be, but there's always all this ice. And so the ice machine seems to have this mind of its own. It just decides sometimes it's just not going to make ice. And of course, we had friends over the other night, and I go to make a drink with the fancy ice machine, open up, it's empty. There's no ice in it. Like, and this is our non-functioning ice machine. So I allowed the ice machine to take me down my spiral, because they can't come out to fix the machine. The manufacturer we don't have anybody to fix it. Sorry. So that really, I allowed that this should not be vibration to send me over the edge for a little bit. And then, of course, I moved on to other topics, kind of forgot about it. I allowed polarity to pull me back up. And then I realized how silly I was being. In fact, my friend Christina definitely helped me realize how silly I was being. She says, "So do you not have any other ice makers in the house?" I said, "No, we have 2 other ice makers in the house." She says, "You are being a diva. You are being a diva if you have 2 ice makers in your house and you're complaining that your 3rd ice maker isn't working." I said, "Yes, I realize now that I'm being a diva. It's just annoying that you buy a new appliance and nobody can come and fix it. It's, but what was the root of it? The root of it was that this should not be." And she's an interior designer. She deals with this stuff all day long. And she says, that's how things are post-COVID. The world has changed. It's hard to get people to work. And it's harder to get people to work. And there's just not, the availability of appointments and availability of appliances and stuff like that. It's just the way it is. So all of that really helped me sort of just get out of that low vibrational space on that topic. The ice machine started working again.
I love that.
And it's been working ever since. So the ice crisis, that was never a crisis to begin with, is over.
Nice. And of course, when people are. Sorry, Wendy.
Today's topic, spirituality and kitchen appliances.
Yes, very deep spiritual topic here. Yeah. How to make peace
that's
with your
something we could all relate to.
Yeah. Well, we all that was the whole point of the story. We all have that thing, that thing that we label as this should not be, that we allowed it to hold us away from joy. And we get angry and all of this stuff, usually it's over something silly like that. And then we just realize that we just catch ourselves in this lower vibrational territory, that where we all go, we all visit there from time to time. And how interesting it is that we have the power to step away from that vibration and allow the universe just to solve the problem for us.
And it always does.
Always.
Yeah. I love that you use the word messy too, because I think that's the perfect description of life. Life is messy. It just is. And but it's beautiful in all that mess, when you discover how beautiful it really is, because those things, like you just shared, David, are the things that we can choose to move out of and expand because of that experience, and realizing that it was just ice.
Yeah, nobody got hurt.
Nobody's hurt. Yeah, nobody's hurt making this video. But how amazing when you do step out of it and look at it with appreciation and joy, and then your ice maker started working.
Yeah.
How cool is that? I love it.
It's all part of our human journey for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Wendy, how is your human journey?
Like the rest of you, messy. It's a process. It's every day you're just refining. It's like you're polishing something. Every day you pick up your practice and you just polish it. And you find new aspects to explore and appreciate. And yeah, it's it's one thing to go on a trip and, go on some pilgrimage somewhere and go sit on the mountain, but it's the everyday grind. That's where the growth occurs.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I see we have a few people watching live, so say hello. Good morning, Cheryl. Good to see you on as always. And I was really distracted with some other business last week. So I wasn't on as much, but this week I will be. And we should have a new podcast coming out this week. We took a month hiatus in July from the podcast. We have a new producer now for the podcast, so I'm excited about that. So the plan is to get the podcast rolling again. We have 4 episodes that just haven't been released yet that will be. So we will get back on track with the podcast. That will be coming out this week. And then I will just be more active on Patreon this week than I was last week. It was sort of a vacation that wasn't a vacation last week. A vacation from Patreon, but not from other things. But all of that is settled now, and I can get back and focus on all of this, which brings me a lot of joy for sure. So in talking about belief systems and really creating our own belief system. And the thing about Taya that I love so much is that it doesn't tell you what to believe. It's just a belief system that is rooted in universal law that gives you the tools to systematically raise your vibration and detune the matrix. That's really what it's about, is detuning the matrix as a ongoing, all day, every day, for the rest of your life practice, if you choose to. And the value in detuning the matrix is that life gets a lot more interesting. It gets more abundant. It gets more fun. You really are able to view. We haven't talked about pyramids in a while. We use the pyramid analogy to talk about wealth a lot. That there's people at the very top of the wealth pyramid, and there's everybody else below that all the way down to the base, and that most of humanity is at the base of the wealth pyramid, where there's just a few at the very, very top. And the love of the system and the love and the appreciation of the pyramid itself is what places you at the top. So demonizing the system and demonizing the pyramid is going to have you going down, down, down to the very bottom, creating the base of it. Well, that really, if you look at how humanity has evolved and think about how society operates, you can look at it as a pyramid, or you can also look at it as video game creation. I know it sounds a little silly, but the video game creation is exactly the way the stream has shown me that we're created. You have someone that is a creator deciding how these characters are going to be, what they're going to do, how they're going to act, and you're sort of controlling the environment from the top down. But the only reason you have any control is because the characters all believe that they don't have control. So if you think about humanity, the reason that we are controlled by other people is because we give them that power to control for us, to create on our behalves. That's what the matrix is, this matrix of belief where people at the very top of the pyramid of control understand that the fear and the judgment and all of these fear-based things that are incorporated into humanity create these obedient beings that are going to fall into place and support the pyramid. And the people at the top aren't playing the game. They know the game. So what the stream has done for us is the stream has come along and told us exactly what the game is. Here's what the game is. You can be at the top, understanding that you are the one that's creating your reality, that no one else has any power unless you give it to them. And you can live by that, but it's lonely at the top because everyone else is running around in the matrix. And so the more we move ourselves out of the matrix, the more important community becomes, because there are conversations that I know I can't have with most people, because my belief is one way or the other, regardless of which polarized side they're on any topic. My appreciation of all of it sounds insane to them. Absolutely insane. And if we remember when we were more in the matrix and we were more into what you might call a 3D belief system, and we all were at some point, how much we needed our thing to be right and how much we needed everyone else to believe, how we argued our point, how we needed others to believe the way that we believed to validate our own beliefs. So David says, is it really all that lonely at the top? Well, I think it depends on how you define loneliness. You don't have a lot of other people that are necessarily thinking the way that you are. But if you're really confident in your belief system, then no, it's not lonely at the top. You enjoy being up there, understanding that you are not better than anybody else, that you're not a superior being. But in your personal vibrational journey, you have discovered the secret of the universe. That isn't even a secret. It's just that we have this matrix that's so powerful that people cannot allow themselves to detune from it. You got to get involved in politics. You got to get involved. They're taking over. They're coming for you. You got to get involved. You got to do this. You got to do that. All of this fear-based stuff that we're taught, and all of it is just an illusion that we can choose to buy into or not. And we talk about for a while, it's probably very helpful to just turn the matrix off. Get off of social media. I did a discovery meeting for boot camp yesterday with someone, and she just discovered us a month ago. And it was kind of funny. She said, about a month ago. I'm like, well, the 1 month that we're like doing nothing, and that's when you discover. It's kind of funny. But I forget that all of this stuff is, on demand out there. So there's years of podcasts and YouTube videos and all of these things. And she said that she's so happy that we're not on Facebook because she doesn't want to be on Facebook. She's so happy that we have our own community. She may be watching right now, that we have our own community that is our own thing, because she doesn't want to be on social media. She doesn't want to be exposed to all of that stuff. And if it pulls at you and it's designed to do that, and you don't want to get drawn into it, then you're better off shutting it all down until you get to a point where you're so strong and resolute in your belief of it doesn't have to impact you that you can observe that stuff. But that's detuning. And detuning, the reason we came up with that term for this is it takes time. It's a process to detune the matrix. It's maybe a lifetime process. That's why every time I get back into the matrix, I jump on here and I tell you all about it, because I think it's hilarious when I do. But the detuning, you do get better and better and better as you go. It does become more of a natural thing. Your default vibration does go up. Everything the stream has provided for us is true. And we see people in this community that apply it and prove it to themselves continually. But keeping up with your practice, that's the tricky one for most people. So Carrie's pretty good at keeping up with her practice.
I am. And I love what Wendy said today, polishing it, because I feel like that's kind of where I am right now, in that I have the tools and I use them daily, but they certainly need some polishing. I love that, Wendy. And the biggest thing I've discovered is that it never ends. And it improves each day. The more I practice, the better I get at it, the more improvement I see just in every aspect of my life. And never dreamed 4 years ago that I would wake up in such joy every morning, like real joy, authentic joy. And it's I have no words yet to describe the excitement and joy that I feel every day to just be here and experience that, and to really observe now the matrix in such a different way. Because like you said, David, everyone that is living in the matrix and unaware that they have a choice, unaware that they create, pick a side. You have to pick a side. And I don't have to pick a side. I get to choose. And it's as simple as that. And it's just, to me, it's just a lovely way to live. And also, I feel like I'm a better person when they are having their experience and maybe so spun out on a topic in the matrix. I can just listen without being triggered, which is really, really nice. I've been kind of playing with that because for a while, as you said, I totally disconnected from the Facebook, social media, the news. And now I can listen without any judgment. It's really amazing. And if I do see a trigger, I can detune it pretty quickly, as you said, because it boils down to this should not be. Oh, that's terrible. It should not be. Yeah. It's again, I'm looking for inspiration on words to describe this new place that we are in the wilderness, which I love, David, that you brought that. Being out of the matrix and in the wilderness. It's basically a new way to live. And I can't wait to see where it goes.
Well, it's funny because the first time I said that I felt like I was in the wilderness, somebody thought that was like a negative thing. And it can be either, right? I could be stuck in the wilderness. Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. Or you can be out in beautiful wilderness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was me, because when you said wilderness, in my mind, it was like I was lost. I was lost. I had no map. I had no, and then when you explained it to me, I was like, oh, yeah, I can look at it as an adventure.
Yeah.
And
to me, I was I was spat out of the matrix, out in the wilderness, and it was comforting and it was peaceful. It didn't have a lot of 3D, going on around me, and there was some unknown element to it also. Like, okay, I'm out in the wilderness now, and it's good to be out of the matrix, but now what? Because the stream has said, and I think we can all prove this to ourselves, the stream has said that we default into a belief system. That's why people that announce that they're atheists very often will be so into politics, because they believe politics it becomes their god. Politics becomes their god, or money, or whatever. Something you're going to default into a belief system. So why not create a belief system for yourself that is your own worthiness, that is rooted in universal law, that is systematically detuning the matrix, but having some sort of a belief system. And that's why I also see the community aspect is so important in sharpening your belief system. Us getting together and having these types of interactions is very valuable, because it's fun to have some friends in the wilderness sometimes to explore, and you're not just completely in solitude all the time. So I'm going to show this if it'll fit in here. Cheryl says, I have learned to say that I appreciate their perception or perspective, but have my own belief. It separates people very quickly. Some rebel loudly and demand that I recognize whatever we're discussing. And that's a clear sign of the matrix. And it took me a long time to get around to that. Well, I don't have to pick a side. You can label me part of the problem. That's fine, but that's just a judgment. That has nothing to do with me unless I accept it. But the matrix teaches us that we have to take a side. If you don't take a side, then you're taking a side, and it's the side that's against me, right? How often do we hear that? And you get to decide what you give power to.
And a good thing to remember is that a lot of people don't want you to pick a side. They don't really even care if you choose their side. They just want to be heard. They just want someone to listen to them. So that's a good thing that I use for guidance when I hear people start to, express their concerns or start ranting. They just very often want someone they just want to be felt like they're heard. So I'll listen, and I'll reflect back what they're saying. Oh, so what you're saying is this. And I can walk away from the discussion still not picking a side. And they'll at least feel better, that if they at least feel that someone had heard them out.
Yeah, I like that, because that when they need to be heard, it's because they have that this should not be thing going on, right? And they're battling it. But notice how the things that we battle just gain momentum. They gain momentum. And the battling and the judging and the we've got to do something, we've got to do something, we've got to push against, we've got to get out and scream about this, those things tend to stick around and don't get solved. And we see a lot of things. I talk about my age all the time. I'm 54, so I've lived long enough now to where I've seen these patterns of things decade after decade after decade. They just stick around. They don't get solved because we're in a polarized environment. Maybe they'll never get solved. The solving of them is in the releasing of the judgment of them.
Yeah, and that was beautiful. Sorry, David, I didn't. Go ahead, finish.
I was going to say the Matrix doesn't teach that, though. The Matrix teaches you got to fight, you got to push against, you got to beat the drum. But we're in a polarized environment, so you don't solve polarity. Mm-hmm. The only thing you can do is come to the realization that there's nothing going on in this environment that should not be. Because if it should not be, then it would not be.
Right. And I was just going to say, I love what Wendy shared too, because in the just listening to them rant without judgment, you're allowing them their space, but you're also staying true to your belief system and allowing them their experience without saying, hey, my belief system, you should be in my belief system, because there's judgment there too. Mm-hmm. So I always feel like that plants the seed to allow them to have their experience and rant, and you saying, I hear you. And then moving on, you gave them their safe space without judgment. And in that vibration, you're planting the seed for them to be like, wow, Wendy really heard me. And how cool is that? I think that's a really great tip when you are discussing something.
Yeah, I like that. Cheryl was talking about how people look at you like a puppy with their head tilted, trying to understand what the hell is wrong with you. Why aren't you on a side of this? So I can either have you validate my belief system, or I can argue with you my belief system. That's what that polarity is, right? They want you to be polarized because they're polarized. And it's okay that they're polarized. And again, this is tricky. This Taya territory can be very tricky because I don't want to dip into judgment of people that are in the matrix. I don't want to dip into judgment of people that aren't as evolved as we are. That's BS. Because as soon as you start that, then you're right back in the matrix anyway, right? But I have noticed myself since we've started all this matrix talk, and I love that the stream, it's sort of like they spent 5 years laying the groundwork to bring us to this realization that we truly are operating in a matrix and that we can get out of it. That's what it feels like to me, that the message took those 5 years to evolve to the place. And then they sort of dropped the mic and said, okay, now go do this. Go do this. It's not that they're never going to come back around again, but they're always here. They're absolutely always here. And the idea of let's take a break from talking directly to the stream so much, and let's ponder what they've already told us and get that going before we ask 10,000 more questions, because they have given us everything. The 4 pillars of Taya, in my opinion, are everything that you need to systematically raise your vibration. And anytime we're not successful in it, it's because we're not really, and myself included, we're not really working the 4 pillars, and then we can get better and better and better at that. But the interesting thing is that I have felt in my detuning the matrix, I have felt that the matrix, I have felt at times like the matrix was coming for me.
Yeah.
But that's fear and judgment, right? So it's interesting to kind of feel like, oh, but then I get down to the core of what's happening. The matrix isn't coming for me. I have an old belief that I have that vibrational dust of an old belief system that still has some presence within me that gets reactivated when I'm down my spiral. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It feels like it's coming after me. And we all know that a tool that's used in politics and in religion, which are pretty much the same thing, to control people is to tell people that someone's coming after you, right? Mm-hmm. Someone's coming after your money. Someone's coming after your freedom. Someone's coming after your belief systems. We see it on both sides all the time in politics, for sure. They're going to come to get you. They're going to change your way of life and make you believe like them, or they're going to kill you, or whatever it is, that fear of they're coming for you. And I think that vibration, that message, is what is happening in me when I think, the Matrix is really coming after me. I think I've even said that to Carrie. And I feel like the Matrix is just coming for me sometimes. It's just coming back around, and I find myself back in it. But really, my belief system is creating my reality. So my belief system is putting me back in the Matrix. It's not an entity that has any power other than what we give to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of, in the beginning, was feeling like I was in quicksand. Like I'd almost make it out, and then it would just pull me right back in. And again, like you said, David, viewing it in judgment and fear. And that was my choice. I can allow myself to believe that the Matrix is coming for me or pulling me back in, or I can change my belief system of saying it is the Matrix, and I can observe it, or I can be part of it. And I loved when you brought the wilderness again to light, because it's like, I know it's not technically two separate places, but that's how I picture it in my mind. And the same, when I was used to watch TV and the news, I had the choice. I could just turn it off. If the news was bothering me, I had the clicker. I could turn it right off. And so I feel like that's where I'm kind of at now with the Matrix. I can turn it off. I can choose to not believe that. I can choose to stay in the wilderness and observe the Matrix. And if it triggers me, I have the tools to detune it, to turn it off. And that's kind of where I've moved to in the past few weeks. It's been very exciting and fun.
I love what Donna says. I never realized that solving may just be in accepting differences, and not everything needs a resolution. True. Because if you really look at everything with appreciation, the way Source sees everything, there's nothing wrong at all in our environment. It's okay that we want to improve, because that expansiveness that we're all about, the universe is expanding all the time. Well, how is it expanding? It's expanding because our consciousness is evolving and expanding. And that evolution of thought occurs in new creation. Well, what inspires new creation? Obstacles. So that process is, yes, we want to improve. There's nothing wrong with the fact that as strands of eternal consciousness, we come to this physical environment and we see things that we want to make better. We are expansive beings by nature, but we can see something and say, gosh, that could be better, or that could be, improved in some way, without dipping into this should not be. We have to eradicate it. It has to stop. It absolutely has to stop. And we know the things that we view that we would rather not happen. When we find that deep understanding that brings appreciation, that only then will these things be solved on any topic. But there's always going to be something, because we're in a polarized environment. Throughout recorded history, and way beyond that, before that, I'm sure people harmed one another. People harmed the earth environment. People, did wrong to each other, things that brought pain and suffering on the other being. That happens in a polarized environment. And the Matrix says you got to denounce it. You got to demonize it. You got to say that it's wrong. But that's never solved it. We still have abuse and mass shootings and war and all kinds of things going on. That doesn't solve it. So why not be radical and try to think about, well, what would solve it? Well, what solved my ice machine is when I stopped demonizing it, right? And that works on every single topic. It's easier to detune an ice machine than a mass shooting. I understand that. But the ongoing vibration of those types of events keep amping up. The more we get divided over it, the more we judge it, the more we demonize it, the more we slap that label of this should not be on it, it doesn't solve a damn thing. Because outlawing guns isn't going to solve it, and figuring out locking everybody up that of a certain age that might fit a profile, that's not going to solve it either. It's what is that vibration? How can we deeply understand the beings that are involved in something like this to the point of appreciation of them? Oh no, you can't do that. That's insane. You're going to appreciate a mass shooter? Well, appreciation is not celebration. The way we use the word appreciation, it's that we understand them so deeply that we appreciate their journey and their position because we understand it. And then we detune the demonization of it. And then it stops. It solves. And it is possible to solve anything and everything. But humanity is not about solving everything all at once, obviously. But gosh, we could solve one or two things. Wouldn't that be nice? It's a nice the vibration of wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if we could solve a few things? But if you're looking for world peace and you're looking for everyone getting together and kumbaya agreeing on everything, that's not what the environment is about. The environment is about polarity. The environment is about the friction that polarity creates. And if you start viewing from source perspective of our journey here on Earth has a beginning, middle, and an end, and there's no right time or right style for that. That's very, very different than what the Matrix teaches, that death is the worst thing that can possibly happen to you. But it's going to. We're all going to have the transition experience. We're all going to. And it could be tomorrow. It could be decades from now. Who knows? But there's nothing wrong in how we choose to operate or when we choose to exit. Because if you view yourself as an eternal strand of consciousness, having a temporary human experience, that takes all the pressure off the temporary human experience. And do I like being a human and being alive? Yeah. There's lots of things in this world that I love very much that I want to experience more of. But if I'm an infinite being and I realize that my consciousness is focused here in this experience, but that doesn't mean that my consciousness that this is all there is, and that if I were to get hit by a bus tomorrow, that would just end me. And even if that were true, this is the coolest thing. It was in the first book. Even if this is all that is, why not make it more enjoyable by pondering the idea that you are so much more than this, instead of putting so much pressure on this precious life to begin with? Could be, right? Could be. Maybe this is it. Maybe we are just a bunch of germs that as a mutation of the environment, we have this consciousness. But it's interesting how when the body shuts down, the consciousness is withdrawn. And you have to say, where in the hell does it go? It just stops. This consciousness that's driving this human being with all of these thoughts and ideas, this powerful mind, just ends. I personally don't believe that. But if it does, well, who cares? Then you're done anyway. But why fear the inevitable? Why buy into that Matrix teaching that death is the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone when it's going to happen to everyone? And when you realize that suffering is always in the this should not be vibration, how many things can you remove the suffering from pretty quickly? How many little silly things do we suffer in that we can completely detune very quickly? And then we can set about detuning some of the bigger stuff. Wendy, do you have thoughts? You're kind of contemplating all of that. You're muted also.
Sorry, I'm muted. You asking me do I have any thoughts? I have a lot of thoughts.
I was
My
thinking you
brain,
did. You look like you did.
my brain is just like the artwork behind you. Yeah, it's it's a lot to digest. Even though I've been studying this for 3 years or so now, there's every time I pop in and listen to David and Carrie speak, there's always something new to chew on. And I was talking about that with a friend the other day. Like, we were talking about, the nature of the afterlife. He's kind of agnostic. He's very curious and uh, a little bit skeptical of everything. And that's okay. I heard him out and he listened to me. And that's a good point, David. It's like, okay, if I think we are more than what we are right at this moment. But if that's it when we die, then who cares? And it's a very comforting thought. There's nothing grim about it.
Yeah. Yeah. If we are done, if we are ended at death, then we're not going to care anyway. So why not find more joy in life if that's all that is? And how do you find more joy in life? You detune judgment and fear. And obviously, we run on belief systems. Obviously, everyone has a belief system. You have a belief system no matter what. Even if your belief system is no belief system, you have a belief system. That's it, right? Your
Oh yeah, you hear all that
friend.
all the time. Is like a lot of people, especially young, kind of youngish, cynical people, think they know everything. It's like, oh, I don't believe in nothing. I don't believe in anything. But if you sit and listen to them long enough, they
Yeah.
have.
Well, the ones that say I don't believe in anything, and then you bring up the Supreme Court in the United States, boom, suddenly they're going to have a belief system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Politics is your God. Money is
You can
your
only,
God. Commerce is your
yeah,
God. Something is your version of that, your belief system. And it's a bit judgmental to say you're God, but I think you all know what I mean by that. That they are giving it power. Oh my gosh, if this happens politically, the world's going to come to an end. And it's going to be horrible, and we're heading to Handmaid's Tale and all these things that we hear, that all this fear rooted stuff. They're giving it power, so therefore that becomes their God. Or we see plenty of people that I don't care about what's going on in politics. I'm going to get up there and hustle, and I'm going to get make another $1 million today. I'm going to make whatever. I'm going to have whoever has the most money wins this game, because money is power. That's their God. They're giving their power to that. Then that is their God. So we might be the only godless ones. Truly godless. That's the next book. Truly godless. Because we're claiming all of our power. We're claiming all of our power. I have not experienced anything in the energetic realm that is seeking to tell us what to do, how to think, how to behave, or seeking to be worshipped. I just haven't. I was taught that. I was raised in that, but I just haven't experienced that firsthand. And I have to go with my instincts. And my instincts are these thoughts that I get are available to everyone. And maybe I get a souped up version of them and have taught myself to speak it, but still it makes so logically, once I started really getting into the stream, I'm like, this is so much more logical than Christianity. That the universe only answers yes to our thoughts. We're creating our own reality. I know every pile of shit I've created in my life has been my own creation. Absolutely. Absolutely, it's my own creation. So there's nothing out there that's asserting itself in my life journey that's making me do anything. It's my choices, and my choices are not perfect, nor should they be. Because we're not here to be perfect beings. We're here for the messiness. The messiness has a lot of value. Solving the messiness is great, but spinning out back into it, that's great too. We've been taught to think the opposite of that, because the matrix tells you that you're supposed to be this perfect being, this highly obedient, very productive tool of society. And you can give your power to that and be that if you want. But we are proving every day in this community that you don't have to do that. That you can be detuned to fear, you can detune judgment, you can step out of the matrix, you can step out of employment, you can step out of any structure if you want and completely break the rules. And I have to tell you, I've always loved breaking the rules without being, I'm not an anarchist or anything like that, but I always loved personally not having to play by the rules. And school was the first thing that taught me that, because school did not work for me. As a dyslexic kid, I was always daydreaming in class. I'm a dyslexic Pisces with no parental supervision. So just imagine what that cooked up. I'm sitting in class, daydreaming, not paying attention to what's going on, not really understanding or able to relate, to what's being offered, and the other kids are picking it up, and I'm just not getting it. And so that education structure didn't work for me. And I remember sitting in, his name was Mr. Brown. He was like a counselor, assistant principal type person. And I had tested to get into like the honors, I don't know, math or science or some crap. And I didn't want to be any part of it. I'm like, I don't want to be in that. I'm not going to do homework. And those are the smart kids. I'm not one of those. And he said, you're going to end up, you're throwing your life away. You're not going to get into a good school. I'm like, I'm not even planning to go to college. What are you talking about? I hate school. I can't wait to get out of here. You're not going to amount to anything. And I just chose not to believe him. Like, I don't believe that. I think I'm going to be just fine. And I love that I've just done that over and over again throughout my lifetime, that you're trying to tell me I have to follow this path. I don't want to follow that path. I don't want to follow that path. I want to beat the odds, if you will, and find my own way. And we can all do that on any topic. And I look back now and thinking, gosh, if I'd really gotten into that, what could have been? But it's okay, because what was exactly what brought me here. And I love here. I really love here. This is really cool. What we're creating together is really cool. And I feel like sometimes, I've needed a break this year a little bit, because I spent 5 years at it, and 5 years is nothing. For a belief system for humanity, that's infancy, right? People still consider Christianity a very new religion. It's 2,000 years old. So I think 5 years is it's okay that we're 5 years into this, and that it's not across all of humanity at this point. And maybe it never will be. But it's all about loving your process and understanding that your process is your power. And the more you detune the stuff that drags your vibration down, the better life gets. And how many times have we proven it already with people that go through boot camp? We just see it. The ones that stay in it and stay active and stick around have that ongoing journey. Donna's a great example, who's watching this right now. I know she's evolved quite a bit since graduation. So, and you all have, but I love that everybody's just on their own pace, their own path. Some people sort of flow away into other things. Some people fall off the wagon and hopefully get back on. Some people just don't. They just disappear, and other people stay with it. And we're always here for everybody, regardless. That's why I love Patreon so much. You can pop back in, you can pop out, you can upgrade, you can downgrade, you can be as involved as you want to be. Now you can be really involved, because you all get a link to join us on camera. And, I want to hear feedback on that. As viewers, let us know how you like these roundtables that we do, because I think it's, I love just getting on and just kind of chatting about it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love, my favorite is to hear each person's journey and their view, because it always expands mine. And it's, to me, the beauty of the practice, the mindset, is when you live your life in such joy and clarity and excitement to be here, like the desire to fight against anybody, to harm anybody, to, it's kind of that live and let live analogy of they're having their experience, and I just, I have no judgment of what they do. And that's so liberating, which really, when I was really meditating on all of that. And then I love the fact you don't need rules. We have no rules in Taya, and you don't need rules. If this is your mindset practice, there's nobody that needs to police me or give me rules. I'm living a life abundantly, joyfully, loving all that is, loving nature and all the other people, and even finding deep love and appreciation for the matrix, because it's what brought me here. And and I love this roundtable. Thank you, Wendy, for always bringing such different views, and you always inspire me too, as well as David and our audience. Yeah, I thank you, Donna, for joining, and Cheryl and David always too bring such great questions. So I hope we continue to do this format.
Yeah, I plan to do it as long as everybody really likes it. That's great. Wendy, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, thank you to everyone who's tuned in today and given some input. And yeah, as always, it's been this great fun, and I really love and appreciate you all.
Very good. Very, very good. Well, I hope everybody has a happy Sunday. If it's Sunday where you are, if you're in Australia, it's probably coming up on Monday morning, pretty quick. And of course, it's also the middle of the night there. So if you're watching us from Australia live, nice work. Thank you. We appreciate it. So I really want to challenge everybody to spend this week really just noticing where you are in your vibrational flow, and just catching yourself, am I in the matrix right now? Am I out of the matrix? And isn't it fun to be out of the matrix? Isn't it fun to be up at the top of that pyramid, in that wilderness space of, wow, I can view all of humanity in appreciation, not be triggered by any of it, and not need to take any side. And if anybody tells me that I do, then that's just their own matrix belief, and that's fine. But I don't have to fall into that. I don't have to fall into it. The matrix is not coming for us. We might fall back into it, but it's our own belief system that's doing that. It's not coming for us. It's got lots of seductive qualities about it, I know, but it's not. You just remember the silly ice story, sitting here going down my spiral over a stupid ice machine when I have two other ice machines in the house or ice makers in the house. And there was nothing, dire going on with that. It was just that silly, this should not be. That silly, this should not be judgment of something so benign that took me out for a minute. And it was fun that I went out. Sometimes it's fun to get back in the matrix for a minute and spin out into humanity. This isn't about being perfect beings. We're not heading towards some guru-ness where we're just all detuned and perfect and we're up our spiral all the time. That's not what this is. That's not what the practice is. The practice is getting out of it more and more and more, being more source-like, more source, I don't want to say aligned anymore, because I think source is in us all the time, but just operating our lives from the perspective of source more and more of the time. That's what we're doing here. Thank you all so much for joining live. And those of you watching in the future, thank you as well. And we will continue. Next week, we are back with all of our live shows. We have the Tuesday training. We have the Wednesday Taya Talk. We have the Thursday Claim Your Power Hour. And of course, next Sunday, we'll be back here with Sunday Soul Food. And so we will be putting links out in the Patreon community. And I think we put some in Basecamp also, right? For everyone that wants to join live, just pop on, just like Carrie and Wendy did today, and we'll have a discussion and we'll put it out there. I love the community that we're building, and I appreciate all of you very, very much. Thank you.